What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 5 nasty wide receiver press releases that you can use. We're going to be talking about the name of the press release, the technique behind it, and then when to use it. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we're going to be traveling out to 11 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Dallas, Texas. That camp is completely sold out, but then we'll be heading out to the DMV area, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So if you guys want some more information on that, how you can sign up to join our training camp tour, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out. Let's get started with this video. So now the first release that we are going to be talking about here is called a hezi skip wide step. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a unique release that we have never gone over on this channel. So let's play this thing full speed and then we'll break it down. So this is Michael Wilson at the Senior Bowl, and I want you to pay attention to this little hezi step that he takes. This hezi step is a great way to be able to get explosion and to also throw off the DB's timing and tempo. So how you want to think of this release is you want to think of it as 2 steps with your front foot. So in this case, it would be his left foot. It's kind of like a double step. Like, so when you're, think of it like this, when you're walking, right? You walk, you go left, right, all the way down, right? So you step one foot after the other. With this release, instead of going left, right, when we are closing space with the DB, we take 2 steps back to back with the left foot. So it's kind of like a skip step. It's a hezi skip wide step release. So he comes off here, he takes this little prep step with his back foot, he goes left, and then he throws the crossover with the right foot. Now, why does he do that? Now, that little hezi skip that he takes, the reason why he does that is to throw off the timing and the tempo of the DB. So many times when you're matched up with the DB in one-on-one situations, one-on-ones in practice, in a game, they start to get your tempo down. They start to understand why you do certain releases, when you do certain releases. So that hezi step is a great way to change up tempo, but also it's a great way to give you an explosive wide step. So a wide step is going to be with your back foot. A normal wide step release that we've gone over on this channel before is where you take your back foot, you're from your release stance, and you're from your wide receiver stance, and you just step wide outside the DB's frame, trying to self-fade and slip back under a slant. Now, this hezi step, the thing about that wide step is you need to have explosion. To get a DB to bite, you actually have to step outside his frame. Your hips and your shoulders actually have to sell like you were running to the fade. But I cannot do that if I don't have some explosion and some push from my inside foot. So anytime that you hop on one foot, you land inside of your frame. You physically, like if you try it right now, stand on your right foot and literally try to jump to your left foot. You land with that left foot inside of your frame, inside of your shoulder frame. And when your left foot is inside of your frame, that allows you to push and it allows you to drive off that middle arch of your foot, which will help you push into the wide step. He's pushing off the inside foot to sell the outside cut. And that outside cut is what gets the DB to jump because we step so far, because I sold with my hips and shoulders, and I'm able to get out of this break. So I like this release only on probably like a slant route, a 5-yard in, or maybe some kind of inside release route that's on the quicker side of things. But I only like it when the DB's maybe about 2 to 3 yards off. You wouldn't want to do this double step with your front foot when this DB is like right up in press coverage. Probably just a wide step would do. But we take a little prep step with my back foot, left, right. Left, right. That's the technique behind this release. So now I'm going to play this full speed, and then I'm going to show how you can pair this release with our next hezi skip release. So let's play this full speed. Left, right. Throws that explosive crossover, and that is how you get to that position. So now let's look at this route here from Dotson with the Commanders. Now, they're all great wide receivers, and I would be a bad coach if I didn't tell you this and try to explain this in this video, that all great wide receivers don't do complicated stuff. They do very, very simple releases that they have perfected. That's why it looks complicated, but it's actually very simple to understand. But what gets them more separation than anything is making their releases look the same. So let's look at this route from Dotson. I want you to pay attention to his exact steps. So this is a hezi skip and go release. So what does that look like right off the get? The last release we saw from Michael Wilson. So let's pay attention to his feet here. What does he do with his back foot? He takes this little punch step. I call it a kick step or a prep step. And watch what his left foot does, you guys. He takes 2 steps back to back. So he goes left, and then takes off. Instead of throwing a wide step with this outside foot like we saw Michael Wilson do, he just takes off and goes. Now, like I talked about, all great wide receivers are able to do what? pair their releases together. They're able to make the releases that they do off the line look similar to other releases, and that makes you unpredictable. That will get into a DB's head. So maybe we've gotten him on this wide step before. Now I want to throw this hezzy skip and go release. So I come off the line, I take my punch step, left, go. It looks the exact same. It's the exact same tempo off the line. This DB's sitting to the inside, anticipating that crossover move, and that could get a separation on the outside. Now, again, what's the goal? Dotson's running a route called the stop route, right? So a stop route, the goal is to get this DB to flip his hips to the fade, think we are running deep, and then put the brakes on. So you guys can do this specific release on an actual fade route. You come off, you do this little hezzy skip release. We come off here, hezzy, take off, accelerate, going full speed. That gets the DB to open up, and then we put the brakes right on and went on that stop route. I'm confident he could have won on that fade route as well because we made the releases look the same. Now, it goes both ways, fellas. You could do this release first. Like, let's say, for example, because I know a lot of you guys play outside wide receiver and maybe you're backside on a run play, right? As a receiver, every single snap is an opportunity for work and an opportunity to build on something, right? So let's say your job is just to run off the DB. Your job is just to run a fade, just get him out of the play. So I got this press coverage look, I give him this little hezzy skip, and I just take off, and I just go run by him, but I let him feel that release. I let him feel that hesitation. So now the next time I come out, I do that wide step, that hezzy skip wide step. So I come off here, 1, 2, and I just put the brakes on with my outside foot. He thinks he's seen it before. He overcommits, and I could go run that slant and get separation. Guys, all the best route runners in the world do this. Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams, all the top guys make their releases look the same. And they all have different ways of playing, and they're all in different offenses. But those key things is what you want to try to add to your game. So this hezzy skip and go release is the second release in this video that we are covering today. Great job by Dotson executing that specific release. So now, this next release I want to talk about here is also from Michael Wilson. I think this guy's an insane route runner, and I think if you guys have not checked out his film, you definitely should check out his film because he is one of the best wide receivers in this upcoming draft class. So I want to talk about a crossover release. Now, so many people think they do the crossover release correctly, but in fact, they do it wrong, and they don't know the right situation to do it. Okay, so I'm going to play this full speed. So he does this crossover release to this outside leverage DB, leans into him, and is able to get separation on this post. So a crossover release, as I'm sure all of us know, can go either way, right? So you could do a crossover release where you jab inside and then step outside, or you could jab outside and then step inside. And I'm sure people have different terminology for that as well. But what Wilson does here is he's got an outside leverage guy, and he has to go run a post. So what a lot of people would do is they would just take off and go run the post, right? They would just think, oh, he's outside leverage, I got to run a post, I'm just going to go run. But in a real game scenario, and that's what one-on-ones is for, it's to get you ready for a real game scenario, he would have what to the inside when he's outside leverage? He'd have safety help, right? So if we just took off and ran, we'd be running right into that DB's help, and that's exactly where he wants us to go. So what we have to do is we have to try to hold his leverage to the outside. We got to try to keep him honest, so when I take this inside release, I could either work to stack him or get as skinny as possible to give my quarterback a big window between the DB and the safety. So that's where this crossover release comes into play. Now, the mistake that guys will make is with this inside foot. On a crossover release, which step is more important? You think it's your first step or your second step? Probably your second step, right? Because that's the step that is threatening the leverage. So the inside step needs to be where? Inside of your frame. So you can do what? So you can push off of it, very similar to that hezzy skip release that we were just talking about. We took that little double step not only to change tempo, but so that double step could be inside my frame and I could push to the outside. So Wilson does a great job of that. He does this inside jab, but it stays inside of his frame, so he can push off of this. He is trying to push off the middle arch of his right foot, because when you could push off that middle arch, that will help you sell with your hip, bring your upper body with the cut, and also step outside of his frame, because honestly, all we need, fellas, is this guy to just hold his leverage so I could take a clean inside release. So that is a textbook example of a crossover release. Same thing if this DB was inside leverage. If he was inside leverage, I would step with my outside foot first, keep it inside my frame, and throw a hard jab to the inside, but push off of my left foot. So fellas, on that crossover release, first step needs to be inside your frame and make sure we are pushing to sell. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Wilson hitting that cross, getting skinny, and then winning on that post. So we've gone over that hezzy skip wide step, hezzy skip and go, and then a crossover release. Now we got 2 more releases to cover. So now this next one here, most important thing about this release is also going to be that skip step, that hezzy skip. Now, if you haven't noticed, that's kind of a theme of this video, is being able to throw and be explosive. So this is going to be called a hezzy skip triple step release. Okay, so what this is going to be, and again, this doesn't have to be verbatim to this specific situation. This wide receiver is running a corner route. He's got a DB who's outside leverage about 5 yards off. The situation in terms of the DB's leverage matters, and this is when I would only use it. But again, in terms of the wide receiver's stance, that is not what you have to do on this release. You do not have to do this in a stance switch. But the quarterback, I want you to know, is to the inside, and we are running a corner. So what he does here is I'm going to play at full speed. He comes off, his first step does that little double step, and he goes into this quick triple step release. Now, this triple step release, some people think that, oh, that's overkill, that's too many steps. It's not if you make it quick. And how you get a quick release, how you take explosive cuts, is when you do that skip step, it's inside that frame. So if you wanted to do this from a normal stance, you would just step with your left foot first, and it would be for more of an outside release. I'll talk about that in a second. But what he does here is his first step off the line is with the right foot. So he goes right, and then he lands with the right foot again. Then he goes left, right, left. So that left, right, left is so quick, is so fast, because his feet are inside of his frame. That allows him to throw that move quickly and actually sell with his upper body and take those sudden quick steps that we all want to have. So again, we need to do this when I'm closing space, because those 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, they all kind of gain ground. They all take a little bit of time, I should say, but we always want to be closing the distance with the DB. If I just gave him like a hard move to the inside and there was 2 yards of space, and I tried to take the inside release, he would wall me all the way to that safety help that he has, because he's lined up outside shade. So again, remember, it's your first step off the line. We hezzy step, and then we go 1, 2, 3. So now, how would you do it the opposite way? I like it when it's off of your first step. Usually, if he's outside shade, it would probably be off of your second step from a normal stance. So like, let's say this wide receiver has his right foot up, left foot back. He would step with his left foot, and then on the right foot, he would do that double step into the 1, 2, 3. So it would be 2 steps instead of 1. Now, again, we like this when he's about 5 yards off, because this allows me to close the space with him. But let's talk about a different scenario. Let's say we were in a normal stance, right foot up, left foot was back, and you had to run a corner, but the DB was inside shade. That's when you would step with your left foot, take the double step with the left, then go right, left, right, off of the 3 steps. So I know that's a lot of steps. I know it's a lot of things to think about, but it's off of your first step or your second step out of your stance. So hezzy skip, triple step release. Let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver getting into that triple step and being explosive by keeping his feet inside of his frame. So now, next release I want to talk about here is from Antonio Brown. Regardless of your opinion on Antonio Brown, one of the shiftiest and twitchiest wide receivers off the line that we've ever seen, right? And the stuff he did was not very fancy, but it was efficient and it got him open. So this release we're going to be showcasing here is called a split release. So a split release is another form of a hesitation release. The situation I like a split in is head up press. Or honestly, if I'm being real, you could use this against head up, inside, or outside shade press. It really, honestly, it doesn't matter what leverage he has. It's just kind of different how you would structure the release, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So let's play this full speed. So a split is essentially exactly how it sounds. You're splitting your feet, and you're taking either an outside release or an inside release, which is why I love this release, because it could go either way. So the split release, there's kind of like a freeze them, leave them element to it. You want to freeze them with your feet, and then you want to leave them. You want to be patient and then sudden to get out of the release. So what he does here is his front foot goes out, and his back foot comes up even with his front foot. So he splits his feet. Now you see when he splits his feet, he is fairly wide. Now this is not a position that I would essentially teach. If I'm coaching up a young wide receiver, a high school guy, a youth guy, I'm probably not telling him to get this wide with his feet. I'm probably going to tell him to close it down and be just slightly outside of his shoulder frame. Some people will say always be inside your shoulder frame, but it's hard to push off of your foot when your feet are extremely narrow. On a split release, whatever release we decide to choose, like Antonio Brown takes an outside release here, right? You got to push off of your inside foot. So you split, he pushes off of that foot, which is what gets him explosion, and he opens up the left foot. So you can't really do that with your feet super narrow. So that's why I would say just slightly outside your shoulders. Now, with this release, when you do this split, the reason why I love it so much is like, let's say the DB was lined up inside shade. You could do a split and then give like a little step fake, head fake to the inside to threaten his leverage and still take the outside release. Let's say you do this split release and he's outside shade. You could split, give a little head fake, shoulder fake, step fake to the outside, and push off of that outside foot and take the inside release. Because when you split your feet, you bring your back foot up, front foot out, you're coming to a position of balance. So you could go either way. Now, another reason I love this split release is because when you have head up coverage, you could split and get a read on this DB. DBs, you do this split, DB jumps to the inside. Because I have such a good base, I could just react and take the outside release. I do this split, DB jumps to the outside, I could just react and take the inside release because we have to take what the DB gives me. So split release is one of the best releases to use versus head up press. I also like it against inside shade or outside shade press. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by AB, hitting that hezzy release, that split, freeze him, and leave him to win on that fade. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out to one of our 11 remaining off-season training camps, we are coming all the way from Dallas, Texas, Honolulu to Los Angeles. So check out that very first link in the description below. If we are coming to a city near you, we would love to meet you and we would love to have you out to one of our off-season camps. Very first link in that description below. I'll see you guys next time.